Minister Jitan.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as I stand here today, and I have to say it is the biggest privilege of my life to serve the people of my country. For too long, our country has been held back, politically, socially, and economically. It is time for us to move forward, to break the deadlock, and to set ourselves free. We want more, we demand more. More for Mauritius, more for the people of Mauritius. But before I talk about how to achieve that, let me tell you why this is so personal to me. My story reflects the experiences of many Mauritians. Born in Triolet to a bus driver who was barely literate, and a mother who never went to school and never had the opportunities in life, I saw personally both the problems our people suffer and the determinations that define them. Education transformed my life as it has for so many others. Our economy has grown rapidly, and we are one of the top performing countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And our country is transformed. But today, we are at a crossroad, not taking us forward, but allowing us to slide backward. Look at the state we are in. Look at the state of our economy. Look at the state of our failing infrastructure, failing health service, unreliable water supplies, energy sector at the brink of a collapse, roads with one of the highest death rates in the world, inflation, cost of living crisis, and too many great brains, too many talents leaving our country for foreign countries. And look at the state of our institutions, lacking basic integrity and trust, adharma, immorality, as Lord Krishna would have said to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Debate suppressed, dissent squashed. Contracts not issued fairly, but given through nepotism. Drugs, mass surveillance, everywhere we see there was evil. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the foundation of our country is broken. The foundation of our society is broken. I love my country and I'm very proud of our country. Today, we demand more for Mauritius. The people have voted to end the era of moral decay, the era of economic decay, to eradicate the evils. The people have voted for change. The people, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, now expect delivery. They demand execution and they want to see the results. And this is precisely what this government is going to do. The presidential address, A Bridge to the Future, is not a long list of good intentions and plans. We will deliver it piece by piece. We will prioritize when needed. Not everything can be done in the first few months of our mandate or the first year. We will need to adapt to changing circumstances if needed. But our commitment to the people of this country is that come what may, we are going to build and rebuild the foundations of this country inch by inch. We will fix the economy, we will fix the drug problem, and we will fix the issue of trust in public institutions. No more consumption-driven economic model, which has been a recipe from hell for our household because of the dependency on imports. As the House is aware, government has put in place a steering committee for the monitoring of delivery of its program for the next 5 years. And under the able leadership of the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, with their strategic vision, maturity, and wisdom, we will establish clear KPIs for delivery. 2 months ago, we took cognizance of the state of the economy and the fiscal mess that the country was in. It was nothing less than a wake-up call. We found ourselves at the brink of a disaster, and we feared the worst from Moody's. And last week we learned that Moody's maintained their rating of Baa3, but downgraded us from stable to negative. As an expert has so rightly put it recently, this is Moody's final warning. We have a year to 18 months to sort out this economic mess that we have found ourselves in at the start of the road to recovery, the bridge to future. There will be tough times ahead. While fiscal consolidation is pursued, increasing government revenue, reducing government spending, reducing government deficit, public debt to be brought to a tolerable level. So big challenges lay ahead. We will need to stay strong, stay resilient, and stay together. We will need to stay focused and aligned while we navigate these choppy waters over the coming month. But I am convinced, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, that the people of this country have voted pour un langage de vérité and will stand together to fight this battle. Because we can either continue to close our eyes and pretend we push the can down the road as the previous government did, but we are a country of hardworking people. We will get back to work and the reward will follow. Let me commend the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister for their vision to re-establish the Ministry of Economic Planning. As a nation, we need to understand and appreciate that they want to leave a legacy for the future generations. A country standing on solid foundation and a vision and a roadmap for the future. And I thank them profoundly for giving me this portfolio. For too long, our country has lacked a clear, cohesive, and coherent vision. Today, the world is changing in an unimaginable way. The financial crisis, post-COVID, post-Ukraine war, nations and enterprises are grappling in unknown territories, uncharted waters. Climate change is impacting people's lives profoundly. Technology is moving so fast that what comes out today is obsolete tomorrow. And populism that feeds on social media, shaking the core of our democracies all around the world. It is in this background and context that Economic Planning Ministry has been restored and will set out the vision for the next 10, 20, 25 years. We will not only produce a vision, but also a roadmap for the execution of that vision, with clear targets and achievable goals, setting out resources needed to execute that plan, and most importantly, evaluation and monitoring so we can keep track of the progress. Adapt and change when needed. Our traditional sectors have served us well, but in the new world order, we no longer can have comparative advantage in many of those sectors. We cannot compete with low-cost countries. And as Raghuram Rajan has so well said, we will need to break the mold. Assess our strengths and weaknesses, lay the foundation for new sectors to emerge, move up the value chain in existing sectors such as financial services, reshape our future economic foundation and development model that is fit for the new world order. So the long-term vision with a clear roadmap for 2050 is what we will produce. This is the new Mauritius for the next generation. So our youngsters are inspired not to leave the country and can see a future for themselves here. We will elaborate a national planning framework to provide the structure and coordination mechanism needed to develop and implement the national plan by ensuring that all sectors, all stakeholders, and resources align to achieve long-term sustainable development. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, engagement is key. No development will be successful without the full participation of the people. And economic and social development for the people should be with the people. The participation of citizens, academia, businesses, and civil society organizations in shaping Mauritius' future enhances ownership, promotes accountability, and cultivates a sense of national unity. My ministry would therefore ensure broad-based national consultation with all stakeholders in the process of formulation of economic strategies and reform. The national planning framework will align national efforts toward a common vision, optimizing limited resources, adapting to global challenges, and ensuring accountability and transparency. The national planning framework would be more than just a tool. It will be a structure to unite, to prioritize, and coordinate efforts to develop and achieve a sustainable national vision by ensuring efficient resource use, by fostering stakeholder collaboration, and by addressing global challenges. The framework lays the foundation for a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous future. We will ensure, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, that planning is followed by effective implementation underpinned by accountability, efficiency, and the required means to realize this project. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, due to lack of cohesive economic planning in the past, we have missed out on significant investment and job creation opportunities. We will therefore strengthen decision-making process by feeding economic and social analysis into policy formulation and the reform process. We will undertake a comprehensive review of our sectors of economic, develop a plan that will allow the consolidation and diversification of existing sectors while encouraging emergence of new ones. To harness the full potential of technology and innovation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, my ministry has sought the assistance of the UN Economic Commission for Africa to design a national fintech strategy. We shall also plan for more efficient resource allocation as government prioritizes spending and investment in areas that align with our vision and development goals. The ultimate objective of the Vision 2050 is to upgrade Mauritius to a high-income status, but with a framework for social justice so every citizen can go up that escalator and not be left behind. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the other aspect that I will speak about now is financial services sector, which currently contributes to 13.8% of our GDP. It has become the main contributor to GDP, overtaking traditional engines of growth. Global business has shown robust performance, contributing 8% of GDP, and carries an enormous potential for sustained growth. Since I joined in November 2024, I have been engaging with many key stakeholders. The aim is to produce a framework for enhancing value creation and upscaling while dealing with inefficiencies, challenges, and constraints. We are undertaking a thorough review of the Mauritius International Financial Center with regard to brand position, reputation, and recognition. The new strategic plan will consolidate the reputation and image of Mauritius while improving its product offering, the quality and speed of service delivery. We want to enhance organizational and operational efficiencies, get rid of bureaucratic red tapes seriously compromising efficiency and timeliness. Since I took the helm of this ministry, I have been receiving many complaints targeting operational inefficiencies. I am concerned that we have shied away businesses and investors. This is simply not acceptable. So we shall be relentless in our fight against crippling bureaucracy and inefficiencies. We shall strive for a major culture change within government institutions, for improved approach to supervision and enforcement of policies aligned with international standards. This is critical as we cannot afford to be again on the grey list ever. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, ever since I took office, I have prioritized this engagement to make sure that we are aligned on future orientation. Among the agencies at hand, we will focus on rebuilding the Mauritius brand, reinforcing our standing as a highly compliant financial hub in the face of ever-changing market and investor needs and increasing sophistication level. And this said, we will strengthen our historic ties with India while continuing to boost our competitiveness by tapping other markets. Africa is no longer a choice, but an imperative. AML-CFT is a very important department of our ministry. When I arrived, the National Risk Assessment was long overdue. Putting a closure to this assessment is a top priority for us. The mutual evaluation exercise of Mauritius, whereby we need to demonstrate technical compliance and effectiveness, is scheduled for 2027. So while Mauritius is compliant or largely compliant with all the 40 FATF recommendations, some initiatives are in progress to ensure that Mauritius remains fully compliant with risk assessment requirements. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, let me now come to a matter that is very close to me and deeply impacting all our economic sectors, all enterprises, and the financial services very much so, the issue of talent recruitment and talent retention. The competition for talent, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, is global. The competition among IFCs is prevalent, which explains why many of our professionals are leaving for other IFCs. We are exporting the one thing that we should not be proud of, and year after year, we are exporting our best brains. I am all for people acquiring international experience. I have myself been working abroad, but we are now in an era of national emergency regarding skilled workforce. We will work on policies and measures to attract our diaspora back to their homeland. Without the right people, growth will remain an elusive aim. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, we have taken office amid a dire set of circumstances and an economy on the brink. There are three things that I believe can make a difference for the future. Firstly, we want us to rediscover our sense of ambition as a nation. The reason our country became much more than it was in the past is because we wanted to be much more than we were in the past. Where has that spirit gone? We need to restore that big vision, that sense of mission, that ambition. To create a vision for a country with an education system that is fit for purpose, a health service that meets people's needs, and a government that stands for honesty, decency, and integrity. These are values that we hold dear. Second, we want to restore the link between hard work and reward. I have huge respect for small businesses, entrepreneurs, farmers, fishermen, self-employed professionals that gives this country what we need. But our country must give them back for what they need. We can't have their hard-earned wealth squandered through corruption and nepotism. Third, we want ours to be a country where there's opportunity for all. I made it to the top in private sector through hard work. I want every young Mauritian to know that if they work hard, they will have an opportunity to reach the top in the public sector and in the private sector. There should be no barriers to anyone's success. No one should be held back because of their gender, their race, their religion, or anything else. So ours, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, is a grand vision. It's a grand mission, and it's a grand ambition. Now we want to work with the people to change our story. Let us write the next chapter of Mauritius, a chapter of innovation, opportunity, and shared prosperity. A chapter where every Mauritian can shape their own destiny. The time has come for a new Mauritius, one that honors our heritage while boldly stepping into the future. Ours, one where our children's dreams are limited only by their imagination, not their circumstances. A new Mauritius with new opportunities and a new mission for a new future. I thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you.